either cleaned up after Shanann or you made the mistake, and I mean, I want to believe that maybe Shanann did it and you felt compelled to fix this so Shanann didn't look bad.
What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. So in this video, I want to talk about the alternative theory technique that police use in the interrogation room. So the alternative theory technique is a tactic that police use, and it's a very effective tactic when executed correctly. And the premise of this tactic is to lower the admission of guilt. The premise of this tactic is to lower the admission of guilt. And the reason that police officers want to do this is effectively because a suspect who, let's say, has committed murder is most likely going to find it very hard to say, I committed murder. It's going to be very hard for a murder suspect to stand there and say, I committed murder. And so what a police officer might do is, instead of getting the suspect to admit to the full charges, they may use the alternative theory technique and say, was it an accident? Were you defending yourself? And the reason that the police officer is doing this is so that the suspect finds it easier to admit to some form of responsibility for what has occurred. And it is a very effective tactic, and here's why. Because if a police officer can say to a suspect who the police officer suspects of murder, was it an accident? Or were you defending yourself? You know, the suspect then admits to that. You know, the suspect says, do you know what? Yeah, it was an accident. It was an accident. That is one foot in the door for the detective. That is one foot in the door for the detective. And the reason being is because now the police don't have to worry about looking for the person who committed the act of killing another human being. They know they have the right person. So they don't need to be doing any more searches. They don't need to be potentially interviewing any more suspects. They know they have the right person. So the police officer has one foot in the door in the sense that they know they have the right person in the interrogation room. And now that they've got the suspect to admit that it's an accident, they've also got the suspect to partially admitting to the crimes. And so often, if the police didn't have enough evidence to arrest the suspect, but they had the suspect in the interrogation room, let's say as a witness or as someone of interest, well, now the person has partially admitted to the crimes and they're no longer going home. They are now under arrest. And then from there, the police detectives, you know, the detectives aren't going to stop there. They're not going to say, okay, we got him or her to admit it was an accident. That's the end of it. No, they're going to then say, okay, they've got that person to admit it's an accident. They might pretend to believe that story, you know, do a bit of detail gathering, you know, with the pen and notepad and look like they're taking it seriously. But then they're going to return back to the agenda of trying to get a confession for the full crime. And then they're going to say, then they're going to, you know, they're going to take notes on the alternative theory there was an accident. And then what they're going to do is they're going to look for holes in that story, and then they're going to try and use that as pressure and leverage to get them to admit to the full charges. So the alternative theory tactic is very, very effective. It can get the suspect to open up more. It can get the suspect to feel more comfortable admitting to a lesser charge. And it also means that the detectives no longer need to look around and, you know, interview potential suspects. They know they have the right person, and they can then build on more damnatory statements later on, whilst trying to get the suspect eventually to admit to the full charges. Anyway, let me know what you think about what I said here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. If you appreciate my work and want to leave a donation, there's a link for that in the description. And with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one. For mortgage advice tailored towards your individual needs, contact PGB Mortgages today. Let them guide you through your home buying journey. Contact details are in the description.